Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. So I thought I was done filming for the year. I had everything pre-filmed up until January and I was ready to take my Christmas break. And then Gucci dropped this little bomb on me and I had to try it out. I had to, for several reasons. This had several of my buzzwords when it comes to foundation. 1, a natural finish. 2, medium coverage. And 3, a bomb 40 shade range from a luxury brand, which I haven't even seen happen before, to be honest. The likes of Fenty, MAC, they've been doing it. They've been doing shade range, but luxury brands, you just don't see a shade range that's not only good as far as numbers, but undertones. We've got olive undertones, we've got neutral, we've got cool, we've got warm, and we've got olive undertones, especially in the light medium range, which is, again, for a luxury brand, I haven't seen it before. So I had to give this one a try. So at the time of filming, this foundation is only available currently on their Gucci website, which I ordered from. There is a UK site. It was free shipping and it was here in 2 days flat, which was pretty impressive. So no problems, no worries about ordering from the UK Gucci site. I had a very good experience. Now it did get here yesterday and I briefly whacked it on just to get some initial thoughts, but it arrived quite late, so I wasn't able to do a full wear test. So we're going to do the full shebang today. We're going to try it on. We're going to try it with a sponge, we're going to try it with a brush, I'm going to do a flash test, I'm going to do a 8+ hour wear test and tell you what I think. We're going to get close up, we're going to see all the tea, I'm going to give you all the details. So without further ado, let's get started. So on the screen I have all the claims about this foundation and there are a fair few. The key ones for me are that it is supposed to be lightweight and long wearing, it has a natural finish, it's blurring, it is adjustable, so they say that you can use it and get a very sheer natural finish or you can build up to full coverage. It is made in Italy and it is an animal friendly vegan formula. You get 1 fluid ounce, which is your standard amount of foundation, and it comes in this gorgeous glass, frosted glass bottle, so you will be able to see just about how much you have left. I will put all the ingredients up on the screen for you, so if you want to read through and check them, then you can pause the screen and have a look through all the ingredients to see if there's anything that might irritate you. The main thing to note from my perspective is that there is a heavy perfume to this foundation. It is very noticeable perfumed scent. As you apply it, it's very apparent. So if you are sensitive to fragrance, it's certainly something to be aware of with this one. It's the same scent that you would experience in the bronzer. So as far as the packaging and the presentation, it was stunning. There is that gorgeous canvas bag and then inside there is that Hessian little mini pouch with the box inside and then that lovely frosted glass bottle with the gold writing and the pink cap, and it does have a pump. I hear you cheering, I hear you. So I picked up the shade 250 in the hopes that that stood for olive. It was very, very tough with all those shades online and not much guidance and no reviews as yet, but I took a punt and I did a very good job. This is a really nice natural olive undertone and it is a hair light for me right now, but it is the winter, so I'd rather go too light than too dark at this point. And as long as the undertone is good, then I am happy. So I'm going in on the sponge side first. It is a thicker consistency, but at the same time, once you start applying it, it feels very light. It's going on very quickly and easily, no sort of working it into the skin, and it feels very, very light and hydrating on the skin as I'm applying. Very quick and easy. The sponge is soaking up a lot of product though, and all of those pumps have almost gone just on that half of my face to achieve what I would say would be a sort of pretty standard medium coverage at this point. As you can see, the majority of the redness in my skin has been toned down, but I can still see in the mirror some melasma showing through and things like beauty marks are still vaguely visible. So going in with the brush side and just that small amount that was left on the palette, and this has given me a much less luminous and sheerer finish. So if you're looking for that sheer coverage, next to nothing, no makeup, this is definitely the way to go. A small amount with the brush, and I definitely think you can get that, but you will have a little less luminosity, I feel, using the brush versus using the damp beauty sponge or beauty blender. This is again going on very, very easily. There's a little bit of brush strokes that are very easily worked away, and it was very quick to get to the same coverage using a brush, and probably less foundation, less product to get to the same amount of coverage that it did on the sponge side. Again, on this side, it's a medium coverage. There is still some melasma and discoloration showing through, but the majority of things like redness is very nicely evened out. At this point, I feel like on my forehead, the foundation is a little bit sitting on top of the skin, and there's a little bit of sort of heaviness to the finish of the foundation, like in areas between my eyebrows and on my top lip and chin. In those areas, it kind of looks a little heavy. So I went back in with my sponge and went over everything, and that took that away. So for me, this foundation is definitely one that applies better with a sponge. That's going to be my preference, or going in with the brush and then finishing with the sponge, just to make sure that any heaviness is taken away and that the foundation is pressed into the skin as opposed to buffed on top of it. Okay, so here is, I guess, like check-in one. The foundation, it's been about an hour since I put the foundation on. I've finished the rest of my makeup, gone and had a coffee and taken some flash photos to see how it got on, which we'll look at in a second. Everything has definitely melted into the skin much more beautifully than on initial application. I was a bit concerned about some of the foundation on my forehead looking a little like it was sitting on top of the skin, which can be the case with some more luminous foundations, that they just take a while to melt into the skin, and this has definitely done that now. And I'd say that on my top lip as well, where it was looking a little heavy, with concealer and everything now set, that looks much better as well. I'm much happier with that. It's really not soaking into smile lines, which is really, really a plus, and it looks very nice and flattering on my forehead lines. Let me get close up and turn these lights down. So yeah, it's looking really, really nice on my forehead, much less like the foundation was sitting on top. You can see that like my melasma is still visible through. So I'd say this was kind of a medium coverage. It's the same thing on my chin. I don't think you can see it as well on camera, but in person I can see like the slight melasma that I have on my chin, still just a hair poking through, which I know this is not a full coverage foundation, but I do have medium coverage foundations that kind of counteract discoloration like that slightly better than this one does. So I think if you have a lot to cover, this probably isn't going to offer you the not just coverage, but the neutralization of any discoloration and things like that as well. It's just going to be a very natural medium coverage. I do think that the sponge side applied nicer. I think this is one that will apply better with the sponge because it is slightly thicker and that silicone feel to it. I think with the sponge it's going to go on just nicer. No issues with the brush, but I don't feel like it kept as much luminosity on the brush side. This is about as close up as I can get. I think it looks really good, like especially like around my nose and those sort of problem areas, like between the brows, on my moustache, on my chin, this kind of area that shows my aging. You know, the first signs of aging, they kind of all appear around here for me, and it looks really, really nice and flattering on like lines, texture, that crepiness, and it's really not in smile lines at all, and certainly not in my forehead lines. This part of my face looks very, very smooth and flawless, and the finish is very natural, skin-like, with luminosity, but it's not like too dewy or sort of wet looking. It's just very, very luminous. A very, very beautiful finish. Okay, so I'm going to show you now the flash photo that I took, and I will say, although there's no SPF in here to speak of, there definitely appears to be a slight white cast or bounce back happening from these flash photos. So this would be one for me that I would go easy with caution if you're going out of an evening or you're going somewhere where there's going to be flash photography or taking flash photos, because it definitely seems to show in the flash photos that there's some bounce back definitely occurring there. So it's been about an hour since I finished putting this foundation on, and at this point I think it looks glorious, beautiful, very, very, very flawless. I love the glowy natural finish that it has. It's definitely settled in much more nicely at this point, and the rain has stopped, so hallelujah, we're going to the park. So I went in with my Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. I used the Hourglass highlight palette today, and then my Laura Mercier blush in the shade Chai, and I had no issues. Everything went beautifully on top, nothing moving around. It feels definitely dried down now. There's no tack at all. It feels not set, it feels like my skin. That's how it feels, but there's no transfer on my fingers, and there's no moving, there's no picking up where I'm touching my face or anything like that. It feels like, it's hard to tell when it's on your face, but the scent is definitely one that kind of lingers around. It's a very heavy fragrance as you're applying. Not as much, not as extreme as the Chanel one for me, or say the Huda Beauty. This is kind of more on a par with the Gucci bronzer. It's that level of fragrance. So kind of it's definitely there. You're going to smell it. If you're sensitive to fragrance, I would suggest that this isn't going to be the one for you. At the moment, it still feels like I'm not wearing foundation. It feels like I've put a really lovely hydrating, cooling moisturizer on. It feels very, very light, very fresh, and just lovely on the skin. It feels very, very nice, and so far so good. I didn't set my foundation as always. I prefer not to. I have normal skin, so I don't feel the need to. So I'm just going with the foundation and the cheek products that I've applied on top, and I've only used powder under my eyes and the other areas where I apply concealer to the center of my face, but there's no powder setting the foundation and no setting spray. So we are going to be giving this a bit of a test today. I have to go and finish off a little bit of Christmas shopping where I'll have to wear a mask. I've then got to pick my children up and do dinner and things like that, and then we're going to be going to gymnastics again, mask on. So I will come back after all of that is done in approximately 8.5 hours. So this will be a sort of 9-hour wear test, and we're going to really see how this foundation has done. So I will see you in a few. Fingers crossed. Hi guys, so we are back, and it is about 5:30 here. So this is about the 8.5 hour mark. And all in all, the foundation has held up pretty well. There's some kind of general fading, but let me zoom in and show you the tea. Okay, so here we are, nice and close, and lights down as low as you possibly can go while you can still see me pretty much. So we're generally a little shinier than when I left you all those hours ago. Forehead is slightly shiny, little shiny in this area, but not too bad. I don't think you're going to really be able to see it on camera. I did pop into a couple of shops very briefly today and was obviously wearing my mask, and there's a little bit of like a line where the elastic from my mask has been. Almost all my foundations will do that, but as far as like my nose, it hasn't sort of rubbed off there where my mask sort of makes contact, and the same thing on my chin. There's definitely a little bit of wear or fading on my chin area, which is kind of where I lose foundation first. The majority of my face looks good. Like, you can still see blush and highlight, which is always a good sign, and everything looks pretty decent. It started to get a little cakey kind of in this area, but yeah, the general holding up of the foundation has been pretty decent. And I've been, you know, I took my kids to the park for a couple of hours today. I've been in and out of shops, and it's been, yeah, a pretty decent test for this foundation, and I think it's done really well. What do you guys think? I think it's worn really nicely. It's a little more glowy, but nothing too crazy. I've had a really runny nose today. Sorry about the TMI, but yeah, it's held up very well on my nose. You know, I've eaten 2 meals since I last saw you, had many coffees and things like that. I've been playing with my children. There was no transferring. It's not gone on my clothes or anything like that. And it's just, yeah, it's worn really nicely. And I've thought all day long that my skin looks super beautiful and just very natural. So for the first couple of goes with this foundation, it's a so far so good for me. It's worn well enough for me without setting it that I will certainly want to try it again. I love the finish of it. It's super beautiful, pretty. I like that I've got a decent shade match and tone match for myself, and the fact that so many other people are going to be able to try and use and love this foundation. As far as skin types, I'm normal. I sometimes get a bit oily in my T-zone, but I think this will work for the majority of skins. I think it will work for dry skin, certainly normal skin, and I think with oily skin, you'll be able to get away with it if you set, because it hasn't got crazy shiny and broken apart or anything like that on me, and I didn't set it. So I think if you have oily skin, it's not so glowy and dewy that it will be a write-off straight away. I think it would certainly be worth a try if you set with powder, as I'm sure you normally would if you had very oily skin, and it will give you a beautiful finish. So I think for most skin types, this is going to work, other than those obviously sensitive to the fragrance that I already spoke about. I didn't notice it throughout the day. I think, you know, after an hour or so, the fragrance is pretty much passed, but it is very noticeable when applying it. So this is definitely one that I'm going to keep trying. I think it's super flattering on lines and wrinkles and texture and things like that. I think it's super smoothing, and it went on really, really nicely. I love the finish. I like the coverage. It's definitely going to be one that I'm going to keep trying and hopefully loving more and more. I will keep you posted as always as I get to know it a little bit better. So this is the last time that I'm going to be filming this year. Videos are still going to be going up 3 a week as ever, while I'm having some time with my family at Christmas. There will be videos for you guys to watch and enjoy still, but they have all been pre-filmed, and I'm going to be having a little filming and editing rest until the new year. I hope you have an amazing Christmas and some well-needed R&R. I know it's going to look a little different for the majority of us this year, so I'm sending you so much love and best wishes, and just try to have the best time that you can in these crazy circumstances. I'm thinking of you all and sending you all lots of love and hugs for this season, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care for now. Bye 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 bye.